Evening, I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. Welcome to tonight's video. Now, what I've decided to do, I feel like this would be very beneficial since I just wrapped up the 2022-23 winter in review. I've decided to go ahead and start a series of videos on specific months, not only just the seasons, but also specific months of the in review, the weather, what happened in the specific months. This will be a running archive to go back and look at, rewatch at any point, and to determine what the weather was in a specific month in a specific year. So I'm trying to capture what really happened, not only in the United States, but also closer into a local area, the Hampton Roads, Virginia cities, for specific months, the overviews. So here we are. I thought I would, put an appropriate graphic here, a couple appropriate pictures. When we talk about the month of March, what do we talk about? We talk about, will March come in like a lion, go out like a lamb, or will it come in like a lamb and go out like a lion? These are the two major references we use every March as far as determining the weather. A little bit of some superstition there. So let's go ahead and get right into tonight's video. And this is the March 2023 in review. Overall summary for the month of March 2023. I'll start things off locally and then I will expand it to show the United States as a whole. We will examine the upper air charts. We will also examine additional temperature anomaly periods and major things of interest for the month, any major weather events. And so let's first start things off with the summary, keeping it local to the Hampton Roads cities in Virginia. March 2023 was a warmer and drier than normal month for Hampton Roads, Virginia cities. The mean temperature finished above normal, on the order of 1.3 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. And this was the third consecutive month in which we have basically been above normal in the temperature department. Now, in general, across the United States, we did see the coldest period in March occurring between the 8th and the 15th of the month. And this was due to the effects from a mid to late February major sudden stratospheric warming event. You notice I abbreviate the sudden stratospheric warming event with the SSW, sudden stratospheric warming. Now, the upper air pattern featured an upper trough across the western U.S. And an upper ridge across the eastern U.S. to start the month of March. But due to the major sudden stratospheric warming which occurred back in February, we saw a pattern change. The pattern broke down. It did not remain the same. Basically, between the 8th and the 15th of March, we saw a trough get established across the eastern U.S. And despite a persistently negative Pacific North American pattern, PNA, a very strong MJO phase 8 occurred, along with negative phases to both the AO, the Arctic Oscillation, as well as the NAO, North Atlantic Oscillation. This finally was the breakthrough to change the pattern, allowed for colder temperatures to reach the United States, the eastern U.S. specifically. And by the end of March 2023, the after effects of the sudden stratospheric warming event had waned, with upper ridging reappearing across the eastern U.S. So this is pretty much a synopsis of the month. And let's go ahead and take a look at the overview charts here. Starting off on the left, we see the prism temperature anomalies in degrees Fahrenheit for the month of March. And notice what's going on here. Warmer than normal across the east are denoted by these orange colors. The darker the orange coloring, the greater the temperature anomaly on the above normal side. And then look at out here, northern plains, the Dakotas down in Nebraska, and then extending west from there. The same old song and dance overall for the month of March as compared to the months of January and February, where we saw below normal temperatures across the western U.S. and above normal temperatures across the east. Now, due to the colder period from the 8th to the 15th, these anomalies above normal for the east were nowhere near what they were for the month of January and February. So it wasn't quite as extremely warm across the east as it was in those 2 months. Look at the overall precipitation percentages of average out here on the right, courtesy of NOAA. Brown coloring indicating below normal precipitation percentages or drier than normal conditions. When you see the brown shadings, when you see the green shadings, that was above normal precipitation percentages as compared to the climatological average from 1991 to 2020. So guess what continued in the month of March as it had already in January and February? We saw above normal precip in California. We saw above normal precip in Nevada, portions of Oregon, Idaho, down to Utah, western Colorado, western New Mexico, as well as northern Arizona. We also saw above normal precip percentages stretching from southeast Oklahoma to Arkansas, southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, right along the Ohio River into southern Indiana. And then we saw below normal percentages, drier than normal conditions across the mid-Atlantic, right on down the coastal sections of the Carolinas, and also along the Gulf Coast, Interstate 10 cities, New Orleans, Biloxi, Mobile, Pensacola, Houston, all drier than normal for the month of March. And then we also saw drier than normal conditions across central Florida. Let's examine the upper air patterns, these upper air charts for March 2023. Now what I did for March is I basically ran each of these graphics, these upper air charts at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet above the ground at 7-day intervals. So I start here on the left with the 1st of March. This is how the 1st of March, how the month started. We saw a deep trough across the western U.S. Look at that purple shading. That denotes anomalously low upper level heights. Anomalously low upper level heights are associated with cooler than normal temperatures. I'll get to those temperature anomalies here in a little bit. But we had a deep trough along the western U.S., same old song and dance. We saw the ridge, very similar that we've seen pretty much through the heart of winter, extending, the ridge axis extending from the Northeast Pacific northeastward, just off the coast of western Canada, down off the west coast of the U.S. And the short wavelength here, this ridge trough couplet, we saw a deep trough and unsettled conditions and cooler than normal conditions for the west on the 1st of March. And then downstream of that, we saw a little bit of weak ridging across the southeastern U.S. up to the mid-Atlantic, denoted by the orange colorings above normal heights, or higher than normal heights. By the time we get over here on the 8th of March on the right, notice how this ridge has really built further north in latitude up towards Kodiak, Alaska, into central Alaska, working its way northeastward with the ridge axis into parts of northwestern Canada. And then look at this difference here. Okay, so over here on the left, on the 1st of March, there was a upper level ridge poking its way extending from southeast to northwest, but these orange colors were much dimmer, much fainter. And so these upper level height anomalies, these higher height anomalies were not as great. But we'll look at over here on the right. And by the 8th of March, what's happening here? We're having an anomalously strong upper level high height center, generally along the west coast of Greenland. And so we got some abnormally high heights. We have below normal heights beneath that across the North Atlantic and extending, working its way towards northwestern Europe. Okay. So what caused this change in the pattern between the 1st of March and the 8th of March with this blocking, upper level ridging or blocking occurring across the North Atlantic, working its way up towards west of Greenland and parts of eastern Canada? What was it? A major sudden stratospheric warming event occurred in middle February. And now we're starting to see some of that energy propagating from the stratosphere to the troposphere. And now we're starting to see changes in the long wave pattern, the jet stream. And we're also starting to see a more typical negative NAO signature post major sudden stratospheric warming. And that's really what's starting to change this pattern. From the negative PNA and the trough in the west and the ridge in the east, we're finally getting some changes here. Now we do see troughing still across the Pacific Northwest on the 8th of March, but you notice the amplitude of this trough is not nearly as deep. And additionally, this ridge here is still somewhat established across the Midwest, but we're starting to see lower heights now poking their way in from the North Atlantic towards the Mid-Atlantic coast. Now moving ahead here to the left, on the 15th of March, we now have a major pattern change that's taken place by the 15th of March. There is a deep, closed, upper level low, a very cold core low at 500 millibars off of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. We have a deep trough established from New England down to the mid-Atlantic. And this is resulting in much colder than normal temperatures for a change. And we do see a little bit of ridging just upstream of this anomalously deep closed upper level low and troughing. We see weak ridging from New Mexico extending northeastward across the Central Plains and the upper Midwest. We also will notice that even though we had some anomalously strong high heights across portions of just west of Greenland and parts of eastern Canada on the 8th of March, those are now gone by the 15th. So this was a short-lived type of situation here where it was a short duration event of that upper level blocking. We see this troughing, we see additional troughing off the U.S. West Coast, and then over here on the right, we're showing what the upper air charts look like for 22 March. What happened here? What happened to that deep purple coloring off of Cape Cod and off New England? It's gone. So as quickly as this upper level blocking, the negative NAO led to colder temperatures finally across the eastern U.S., it was a brief period. We see more of a flatter zonal look here to the eastern U.S. by the time we get to 22 March. And then look at this deep closed upper level low off of this, basically over central California. Just, another crazy intense storm system associated with this cold pocket of air, very unstable conditions. And, you got this nice jet stream wrapping around it. And so the theme returns to what it was for the previous couple months, where we get troughing along the U.S. West Coast and more of a ridging or higher heights to the east. Looking now at the 29th of March, what the chart, 500 millibar chart looked like, we have another deep closed upper level low. This time it's situated off the Oregon, California coast. I mean, when will this end, this pattern, just locked in place outside of the 8th to the 15th of March period? We do see a little bit of troughing now reestablishing itself upper Midwest to the mid-Atlantic by the 29th of March. So, we got temperatures that have cooled back down a little bit. The ridging has been basically flattened. Look at the subtropical ridge here. These lighter orange colors here from the western North Atlantic across the Gulf of Mexico and Texas. This is a much flatter looking ridge at this point. So we do have quite a few upper level closed lows. We have lower than normal heights in northern latitudes now. This one being most intense off the coast of California, Oregon. Looking over here on the right to end the month of March, 31st of March, is the 500 millibar chart showing that troughing over the western U.S. again. And then as this trough was digging in, the ridge downstream was building and amplifying over the Midwest to the East Coast. And then the lower the normal heights, the lower heights are now to the north where they really belong, across parts of Hudson Bay right on over to Nova Scotia. But we have unsettled weather with troughing across the west and milder temps across the Midwest to the East Coast by the time we ended the month of March 2023. Now let's look at the temperature anomalies for March 2023. 1 March is over here on the left. The maroons and the bright orange colors above normal temperatures. The greens and the blues below normal temperatures. So by 1 March, we have a large swath of the nation from the Rocky Mountains all the way to the East Coast, including the Gulf Coast, above normal. And we're talking about temperatures in the order of 15 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit above normal from Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, eastward to Virginia, down to the Carolinas, all the way down to Georgia and Alabama. Above normal again. And below normal temperatures, look at California and Oregon. We're looking at temperatures 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal on 1 March across California and Oregon. So below normal temperatures associated with the troughing over the western U.S. as a whole. And then over here on the right shows temperature anomalies for 8 March. So on 1 March, these warmer than normal temperatures extended a little bit further north. And then by the 8th of March, they were somewhat suppressed. Basically, I-40 south had the above normal temperatures by the 8th of March. You notice that there is some new injection of colder than normal temperatures across the northern plains, eastern Montana, Wyoming, right down to eastern Colorado by the 8th of March in this little area here. But guess what, California? You still say colder than normal. Moving ahead now, temperature anomalies for the 15th of March. By mid-month, look what's happened. We had that deep trough that was established across the mid-Atlantic, and looky what we got here. Upper level troughs are associated with cooler air masses, and we have temperatures across the Appalachian states, specifically West Virginia down to Western Virginia, Eastern Tennessee, and even parts of Eastern Kentucky, Temperatures on the 15th of March were running 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit below normal in the purple coloring here. The colder air with light green shading all the way up to about 10 degrees Fahrenheit below normal for Hampton Roads, Virginia cities. And those temperatures, 10 to 12 degrees Fahrenheit below normal, went all the way down to South Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. And so you can see much cooler than normal. We still had a little bit of cooler than normal temps across California by this point in the 15th. But in general, the coldest air of the country was located over the eastern U.S. by the 15th. This again was in association with the after effects of the sudden stratospheric warming event which took place in February. Looking over here on the right, temperature anomalies. Things have recovered somewhat across the Ohio Valley by the 22nd of March. No, we don't see those purple colors anymore now. Now we actually see some of these peach colors taken over in Ohio, for example, where Ohio was running 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. We still see some lingering chill across parts of the southeast, including Georgia, 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures below normal by the 22nd. And then there's another pocket of colder than normal temps across the mid-Mississippi Valley, including southern Illinois to Missouri and northern Arkansas, where temperatures were 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal in this pocket. Overall, northern plains remained below normal by the 22nd of March. And then let's take a look at the 29th of March temperature departures from normal, showing a much colder air mass from the northern plains, the Dakotas, eastern Montana, 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit below normal on 29 March, and then all the way down to western Kansas, parts of Oklahoma and Texas, even all the way down to the Rio Grande area. Temperatures were much below normal across portions of Mexico across the Texas line. We're talking 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit below normal in northern Mexico, just right across the line from Texas by the 29th of March. Looking at the graphic here on the right, temperature anomalies continue to be there for North Dakota and eastern Montana. And now we also see temperatures running 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit below normal on the 31st across the southern Nevada, southern California, and Arizona areas. We do see a new warming area developing from eastern Colorado, western Kansas to eastern Nebraska. Places like Omaha, Nebraska, end of the month, 15 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Des Moines, Iowa, 12 degrees above normal. Chicago, just 2 degrees above normal. But in general, we see Iowa to eastern Nebraska along Interstate 80 had the warmer than normal temps by the end of the month. And then across the east, we do see some slight chill, slightly below normal for coastal Virginia and the Carolinas, 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. The green coloring indicating more significantly below normal for parts of New England, ranging from 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal there. Now, let's take a look and examine the teleconnections for March 2023, starting with the AO, the Arctic Oscillation Index. The big thing with these three graphics, this graphic here on the far left is for 3 March, the center graphic 17 March, and then this right-hand graphic 23 March. We're starting to really see the effects, the after effects of that sudden stratospheric warming. We're getting a negative AO, which develops from basically a negative AO developed really into early March, towards mid-March, due to the effects from the major sudden stratospheric warming event, which occurred in February. But then the AO does turn positive at the very end of March, and the forecast was for that AO to remain positive into early April. The North Atlantic Oscillation for March 2023, the NAO also turned negative, with high latitude blocking establishing itself across Greenland, then working westward into eastern Canada. This is a typical response, a negative NAO associated with a major sudden stratospheric warming event. The pattern temporarily changed in this area right here. And then the NAO did remain slightly negative as we went through the rest of March. The PNA, Pacific North American pattern for March 2023, showing a negative continuation of a negative PNA trend. Do you see any of these blue vertical bars above the zero line at all for March? No, you don't. I don't see it here. I don't see it here in March, and I don't see it here. So the Pacific North American pattern, it just continued from its winter pattern of being negative. Now, typically what you get with a negative PNA is you would get that trough and the coldest temperatures out in the western U.S. You get a ridge downstream across the eastern U.S., including the mid-Atlantic, and above normal temperatures. Now, one interesting thing, and I watched this closely as things unfolded, this negative PNA signal was overcome by a stronger MJO phase 8 and a negative AO NAO combo, the negative AO NAO combo, plus MJO phase 8 during the 8th to 15th of March. Those three factors overpower the negative PNA temporarily. We look at the MJO for what happened in March 2023. Look at this solid green line, the average of all the ensemble models. This is impressive, all right? Going this strongly negative for the MJO, the convection focus in the Western Hemisphere. This was really impressive to see. This was the MJO from March 3rd, early in the month. So at that point in time, the MJO was in a phase 7. It was working its way outward away from the inner circle here, getting stronger with greater amplitude. And then it rotates into phase 8 and eventually to phase 1. The graphic here on the right showing a continuation of the green line. This is from March 17th, the MJO, showing, look at this red line. This is the past. So the MJO went into a strong phase 8 from the just after the 6th of March all the way through the 13th of March. So about a week from the 6th to the 13th of March, we saw a strong MJO phase 8. Now phase 8 in March is associated with colder than normal temperatures in the eastern U.S. and an upper level trough, which matches quite well to what we saw. Let's take a look at a couple things here. It matches very much with what happened here with this deep trough digging from New England down in the mid-Atlantic. This is associated with the MJO phase 8, okay? And notice what happens. You still have the negative PNA out here, so you still had troughing out along the U.S. West Coast, but it wasn't nearly as strong. Once the MJO rotated out of phase 8 and went into phase 1 and ultimately into phase 2, look, at the negative PNA took over again. See how deeply purple this coloring is? How significantly below normal these heights are off California by the 22nd of March? Now, look at the 15th of March, the temperature anomalies. 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit below normal temperature anomalies, again, along the Appalachian states, but also all the way down the Gulf Coast. We're talking 10 to 11 degrees Fahrenheit below normal down along Interstate 10 corridor by 15 March. But then by the 22nd of March, that cold eases, all right? So I just wanted to really connect the dots, tie this all together. We had a negative AO, we had a negative NAO, and then we had a negative PNA. So again, here's the main message. Teleconnections can either work with each other or some might work against the other one. They could work against each other, basically. And this is a case of where teleconnections worked against each other. A negative PNA versus a negative NAO versus a negative AO versus a strong colder phase MJO to phase 8. This baby became king, MJO, in March of 2023, going strongly to negative 8. Phase 8. Here's the other thing we need to keep in mind. I mentioned this on my 2022-23 winter review video. I said that it's very hard to get the MJO into phase 8 during La Nina. Well, look what happened here. It went strongly into phase 8, so we're going to kind of lead that in to La Nina rapidly weaken during the month of March 2023. And that's what happened here. That's what allowed this to get strongly into phase 8. Look at the sea surface temperature anomalies of March 2023. We have a strongly negative PDO, Pacific Decadal Oscillation. Look how much below normal these temperatures are off the west coast of North America, from Canada down off the west coast of the U.S. Look at these things. All right. This is March 1st, sea surface temperature anomalies. Blue coloring below normal, orange coloring above normal. This signal grew stronger than negative PDO. Across the Gulf of Mexico, across the Atlantic, we have above normal temperatures. Not a surprise, since we had that ridge in control. There's a tropical ridge for a good portion of the heart of winter, and that allowed these temperatures to remain warmer than normal. Look over here in the bottom right. This is the end of the month. This is 31 March. So 1 March up here in the upper left, and bottom right is 31 March. Let's compare how things changed. Look how below normal these temperatures are off the U.S. West Coast, associated with that negative Pacific Decadal Oscillation, the negative PDO. But look at what's happened off the coast of Peru in South America. Look at this. A slight warming by 1 March. You kind of see how this blue below normal, this blue shading is kind of dissipating for the La Nina across the equatorial Pacific. But whoa, look at this baby now. 31 March, we have a significant warming of waters which has occurred off the coast, west coast of South America. This is association with some major things changing. Those major things are going to be the emergence of an El Nino eventually throughout 2023. Look at the Nino 3.4 water temp anomalies in March 2023. This is 3 March. This is 3 March in the upper left. Look at how these temperatures, the water temperature anomalies, have decreased significantly by the time we got to the end of February, right on into March. And then look over here, March 31st, bottom right, showing, look at this, almost 0 degrees Celsius anomaly. By the time we got to mid-March, March 15th to 17th, we got that blue water temperature anomaly line getting all the way to the neutral point. Now, it did dip cooler than normal a little bit beyond that, beyond between 17 and 31 March. But the month, by the end of the month, we were at minus 0.10, minus a tenth of a degree Celsius below normal water temps in that Nino 3.4 region. Not a lot of difference there from normal. The other big thing that really played a role in the overall pattern change in March 2023 was this major warming of the stratospheric temperatures in February 2023. Look at this. This occurred basically between the 14th and the 20th of February. These colors here indicate the temperatures in degrees Celsius in the stratosphere. And we had a significant warming take place over the pole. And this was the fourth sudden stratospheric warming event in the past 6 years. The previous the previous four, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. The previous four going back beyond 6 years to 2013. We had a sudden stratospheric warming in January 2021. We had a sudden stratospheric warming in January 2019. We had another one in February of 2018. And then finally, going back to 2013, we had one in January of 2013 of that year. But going back to 18, this was the fourth major warming event in the past 6 years. Just looking at the first three, going through 2018. Now, this played a significant role in changing the upper level pattern, with lower than normal heights and colder than normal temps invading a large section of the United States. It really hit hard between the 8th and the 15th of March. We had anomalously colder than normal temps over pretty much the whole United States at the time. Now, one thing to keep in mind that if this type of stratospheric warming event would have occurred earlier in the winter, we could have seen a much different winter outcome play out across the eastern U.S. as far as temperatures went and as far as precipitation type went. Here is the graphic from NOAA, from the CPC Climate Prediction Center. This just kind of shows you, this was 2022, the months from July to December, and then we go January to July of 2023. Of course, we're most interested right here, starting at January. January actually had near record cold temperatures almost as low as negative 78 degrees Celsius in the stratosphere. You know, the polar vortex in the stratosphere was very strong. And, you know, right when we turned over the calendar to the new year in 2023 in early January, we had near record cold temperatures in the stratosphere. And then look at this spike over time with the sudden stratospheric warming. Look at this thing. Now, in March, this was a forecast over here in the far right portions of this line. But this is what occurred in February, and you can see we went from nearly negative 78 degrees Celsius temperatures in the stratosphere all the way up to negative 38. Basically between early January and early February. So this is a significant spike in the stratospheric temperatures, and that really resulted in some major changes to the pattern, as I mentioned. In addition, we need to talk about a major event that occurred in the month of March 2023. At the very end of the month, on 31st of March, this did extend over to 1 April. There was a major tornado outbreak for eastern Iowa and Illinois, right on down to southeastern Missouri, western Kentucky, parts of Indiana, central Indiana, including the Indianapolis area, western Tennessee down to Arkansas, and even northern portions of Mississippi. You'll see the legend here that's shown from the Storm Prediction Center. The different triangle shapes indicate tornadoes. In fact, this was a tornadic outbreak which featured 131 tornadoes. Strongest tornado was EF4 in Keota, Iowa. That is this circle area right here, this dark circle area in eastern Iowa. This little triangle, upside down triangle, indicating the tornado, was an EF4. And so that had winds up to 170 miles per hour at this location. There were 27 total fatalities amongst all these states. There was 126 injuries, and there were 766,000 customers who just lost power. One of the biggest hailstones in this particular severe weather episode occurred in Beverly, Illinois, where we saw 3.5 inch diameter hail. Impressive. So this was a big time outbreak, and this is not unusual for the month of, as we had from late March and early April across the Midwest, when we still have continental polar air coming down from Canada, very cold and dry air, very strong frontal boundaries. We got nice jet stream dynamics, a very strong jet stream aloft over these frontal systems. That results in increased wind shear. And, you got a lot of temperature contrast. You got very warm and summer-like, typically ahead of these strong cold fronts, and winter-type cold behind the cold fronts. So a large temperature difference across a small horizontal difference, and then you get some thunderstorms to pop along that lifting mechanism, that frontal boundary. You get a nice intense area of low pressure to aid in the lifting. Jet stream dynamics, again, as I mentioned, a nice little vorticity maximum shortwave trough of 500 millibars, and boom, you can get some things to pop off. You get the shear, you get the lift, you get the instability, and you get the moisture, and you got all the ingredients you need for rotating updrafts of air, and sometimes they result in these tornadoes. Here, just to end tonight's March 2023 review discussion, I want to bring it back closer to home, back to the local area again. These were the daily temperature anomalies for March 2023 for Virginia Beach, the departures from normal. And you'll notice, a lot of pluses here initially in the month. From the 1st to the 5th of March, we saw temperatures in the order of anywhere from, and for the most part, 4 degrees to 16 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for high temperatures, and above normal nighttime lows as well. And then you'll notice a cool down between the 8th and the 15th. We start seeing more negatives. Look at the 10th right on through the 15th specifically, 10 to 15, below normal high temperatures for 6 consecutive days below normal high temperatures. And then you notice some of the low temperatures too even got below normal on the 15th and 16th, between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. But then things rebounded again. By the 24th and 25th, the temperatures for Virginia Beach were on the order of 21.5 on the 24th and 20.7 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for high temperatures on the 25th of March. And then to end the month, we had a plus 12 degree Fahrenheit temperature departure for the high temp. Here's a summary. We had 13 days below average high temps for March 2023. We had 18 days above average high temps. So 5 days more, 5 additional days. 5 days with above average temperatures versus below average temperatures. 5 more days. And then 15 days featured below average low temperatures, while 16 days featured above average low temperatures. So the low temperatures really evened out the above average versus below average low temperature days. Here are the major breakdown facts for the month of March 2023. The mean temperature departure plus 1.3 degrees Fahrenheit, so slightly above normal, not as drastic as January's and February's 6 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit above normal temperature departures. The minimum temperature for the month of March 2023 for Virginia Beach was 27.6 degrees Fahrenheit on the 21st. The maximum temperature during the month was 82 degrees Fahrenheit on the 24th. The total precipitation was about 2.27 inches. This was minus 1.42 inches, so 1.42 inches below the normal for March. So again, dry. Milder or warmer and drier. The max daily rainfall occurred on the 13th of March, where we saw 0.86 100ths of an inch. And again, not as mild and lopsided as January and February 2023 in the temperature department, but still above normal nonetheless. So that wraps up my March 2023 review. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I like to use these videos. I'm going to start doing one of these each month. At the end of each month, I'll do a summary of how the month turned out across the United States, look at the upper air charts, and look at the temperature departures from normal, and see if there were some interesting events we can review as well. That wraps things up tonight in Spot On Weather. Until next time, everybody, take care and God bless everyone.